Hey guys, it's been a minute, I know. Recently with all my spare time, I've been just thinking about my journey as a doctor, and I gotta say, it's been great. The people, the medical malpractice, everything is wonderful. It's hard to believe it's been over a year since that day. So, you know what, after all this hard work, I thought I'd surprise my mentor, Frank George, with a visit. There he is! Yo Frank, it's me, Guaca!
Yo! My main man, Guaca. No freaking way. This is perfect timing. Thank you, Zeus.
What's wrong, Frank? In need of my services?
I do. I have contracted a deadly disease called Stigma, and I need your help to cure it. I don't want to miss another episode of Hunt for the Starry Sky every Sunday on that little guy Stargazer's Twitch channel.
Stigma? That sounds deadly. How do we cure this disease, Frank?
Oh, it's simple. You just gotta play Trauma Center. New blood for the Nintendo Wii, and all will be revealed.
Another adventure into the world of Trauma Center, huh? Well, count me in, Frank. Of course I'll save you. Let's do it. Yep, that's right, folks. The time has come to return to Trauma Center, and the stakes have never been higher. Here we go. Breathe it in, fellas. Another beautiful surgical RPG motion game for the Nintendo Wii. Now, while New Blood is set in the same universe as Second Opinion, the previous game I played, it is its own separate story with brand new characters, and it's actually set 10 years after the events of Second Opinion. Just to give you guys a little time frame, it starts out in a little remote, snowy village in Alaska. Immediately from the get-go, the stakes are pretty high as we're introduced to our first patient and our first doctor, Dr. Blaylock. Our patients seem to fight the mighty grizzly and lost, so we have to patch him up. We are then introduced to our next doctor, Dr. Vaughn.
It's hard to believe, but situations like this don't seem to faze me anymore.
Wait a minute, I recognize that voice anywhere. That's the GOAT himself, Troy Baker.
Wait, Frank, I think you're right! No way! I know exactly who I'm playing as. Now, New Blood has a slightly different UI and layout compared to Second Opinion. The pre-surgical conference seems a lot more detailed and feels a bit more clinical in its presentation. Everyone here has more experience and is a bit more of a professional, and they're also much older compared to our other protags in the previous game. New Blood is also unique in the premise that you can either pick Blaylock or Vaughn as your playable character, or you can play split screen with your friends. Do you want to play, Frank?
Sorry, bro. I'm too sick. Stigma prevents all Wii motion-based activity. I'll have to give you advice instead.
No worries, Frank. I got this.
Time is of the essence. Let's get started.
The first operation is incredibly basic, with our goal of suturing some wounds and placing some bones back together. The gameplay is completely identical to Second Opinion, with the way you complete operations and certain wounds being treated the exact same. It's perfectly fine, as there are no huge jumps in medicine in this time that would be the need for a complete overhaul in game mechanics. Well, that's our first operation done. Not bad. Felt good to dust off the old scalpel. The post-op cutscene shows us the two dynamics between Blaylock and Vaughn. Vaughn seems to be a bit lackluster in his motivations, kind of just going through the motions with his witty remarks and his constant mentions of things outside of work. Blaylock, on the other hand, seems a bit more devoted to her job, and takes it a bit more seriously. I'm very intrigued and excited to see how the dynamic between these two shifts during the game.
Well, I don't let my stomach call the shots, so I'd be happy to stay a little longer, sir.
That's quite all right, Dr. Blaylock. There's nothing more we can do for him for the time being.
These attitudes as well are reflected in the small country town itself, with Blaylock stopping to chat with certain members of the public during their off hours. Vaughn, on the other hand, at work, seems to treat his patients with little enthusiasm. Now, our next patient arrives and tells us a bit about the hospital we're working at. Apparently, it's got a bad rep among some of the villagers. It's a pretty small practice and just these couple of doctors. There's something going on behind the scenes though, with Vaughn being called back to go somewhere. Before we can find out more, it's time for the next operation, removing some tumors. It's an incredibly easy operation again, and it's more of a tutorial on how to deal with the less difficult operations and mechanics because, as we know, Trauma Center goes into high gear out of nowhere about halfway through the game, so it's best to take your time and enjoy the easier missions and soak up as much information as you can. In terms of operations, by the way, the missions in New Blood seem a lot better compared to Second Opinion. It feels more accurate and snappy, which is great. Anyway, we save the man, he stops complaining and now wants to come back for more operations? Hooray? You might be worried to think that the first chapter continues like this in a dull manner, but the next mission already starts to get the plot rolling, with a snowstorm. A man who has been shot arrives with a woman, seemingly a nurse, who wants to help us operate on him, and who Vaughn seems to slightly recognize. This operation is pretty cool, honestly. You have to drain the blood and then extract the bullet carefully. Upon getting it though, his pulse drops and we have to resuscitate him and pull out the other part of the bullet. Why is resuscitating him still so hard?
Guaca, you idiot! You aren't trying to create Frankenstein. Stop zapping him and aim for the green section of the bar by pressing Z and B.
Okay, I got it. Phew. See, I still got it. It's only medical malpractice if you fail, Frank.
Doctor.
Now, it's time to learn about our new nurse a bit more. Miss Elena, who was sent here by a Professor Wilkins, which is an associate of Vaughn's. She wants to be operated on by Dr. Vaughn because 7 years ago when she was a young kid, he operated on her and placed a unit on her pancreas, and now he has to do it again because it's failing. Before the operation, we also learned that the nurse, Elena, became a nurse because of what Dr. Vaughn did to her. Despite her condition, her struggles, she tried her hardest and managed to achieve her dreams. Don't worry, we'll save her and make sure she's a nurse for a long time. Going back to Vaughn though, he gets interrupted mid-meditation from Professor Wilkins, who claims to have been infected with Stigma, stating it's Vaughn's responsibility to help. Onto Elena's operation. It's another pretty easy one, just replacing some switches in the pancreas when...
I have a bad feeling something would go wrong. I guess I have no choice. Remain centered. Breathe. Focus. As the stars have taught me. Now, let's finish this. Okay.
The healing touch?
It seems Vaughn also has the healing touch, just like Derek, and promptly passes out. This does raise a question though. Why is Vaughn, a doctor with the healing touch, in a backwater hospital like Montgomery Memorial? Surely he'd be better suited to Caduceus. This does reveal something else though. Blaylock seems to be attempting the same meditation as Vaughn, wanting to learn the ability of the healing touch, but she's having some difficulties with it. Now, after another operation on the director of the hospital, and still no new healing touch, we do learn that the hospital is being shut down due to its lack of business, meaning Blaylock and Vaughn will be out of a job soon. While things are gloomy, they get gloomier. Someone is now trapped underneath the church construction. It's the nurse that the Dr. Blaylock talked to earlier in the game. We have to save Sister Catherine, and with Elena recovering well, she wants to be our new nurse. This operation makes us play as Dr. Blaylock as we attempt to stop all the hemorrhaging inside the patient. No matter what we do, cuts and blood just keep coming. It seems it's going to be okay though, managing to get the... shiver me timbers.
This isn't good. Was there...
No! Sister! If I can't save her life, I have no business calling myself a doctor. Spirit of life, guide my hands. She'll be okay now.
Don't tell me. What was that?
Nah, Dr. Blaylock has become peak. Good for her.
With the operation done, it's decided that we are heading to Concordia, Vaughn's old hospital, and Elena is coming. With everyone's resolve strengthened, it's time to head to Concordia and begin to uncover the mystery of Stigma. On to the next chapter, and we arrive at Concordia Hospital. The doctors meet some familiar faces, including this guy called Dr. Rousseau.
Rousseau? It's been a long time.
Hello, Dr. Blaylock. How was Montgomery Memorial?
Well, it was certainly challenging.
I have to admit I was quite envious when I heard that you were going. I mean, who wouldn't want a chance to get in touch with nature?
This man smells sussy as hell.
Yeah, he definitely got that stank about him. The way he talks, condescending and acting all high and mighty for being in a big hospital. I don't like him. Moving on from Dr. Smelly, we finally meet Professor Wilkins, who has subsided his symptoms of stigma. We'll get back to him in a few days, but now it's time for some standard operations. Dr. Smelly has signed us up for a few extra operations for literally no reason other than him being an absolute bastard. These missions are the same difficulty as Chapter 1, with nothing crazy to write home about. New Blood definitely has a lot more extra padding in terms of average missions compared to Second Opinion, which is okay because I think that's what the game's going for, is trying to take us through mundane routines to better reflect the feelings of the characters we're playing as. These missions do have a little bit of substance though, like this poor girl who needs a pacemaker, and also just a straight up druggy dude walking in asking for pills, which is strange, I assume, but is probably unfortunately a regular occurrence for hospital staff. I salute you for your hard work. Back to the pacemaker mission though, this is a pretty unique operation in which you have to attach cables to the heart, and if it fails, instead of using the defib, you have to manually massage the heart with your hand. I really appreciate the effort New Blood is going through to create more unique scenarios and different operations settings with the same type of gameplay. If you played the series back to back, each game would feel quite distinct with its set of operations, despite them being a lot less intense in terms of difficulty. After these operations, the director of Caduceus shows up. You remember Caduceus, the big organization from the previous games, who are at the forefront of medical expertise? Before we can really get to know her though, a rush of victims from a car crash come in. This is our first semi-intense operation. We have to juggle reviving the patient along with closing their wounds and doing another jigsaw puzzle to repair their ribcage. But that's easy peasy for me. But now I'm mad. Because guess who takes all of the credit for our life-saving operation? Anyway, this brings us to the Stigma operation with Professor Wilkins. There's not much known of this disease apart from the fact that, well, Wilkins was investigating it when he was accidentally infected. We're pretty much just going in blind.
We're ready to begin the procedure. Based on what we know, we expect that Stigma will become active once we open up the professor. Please be extremely careful.
Last few moments?
We need to suture the wounds immediately and try to prevent any further damage.
Well done, Doctor. So please... There it is.
My god, look at it.
What the actual freak is that?
Frank, that is Stigma, a creature that grows inside the patient, and it zooms around whichever organ it attaches to, causing tumors and multiple lacerations. Now, with my previous experience as a guilt operator, this is a cakewalk, but it's nice to see the game finally starting to pick up the difficulty and the wackiness.
For Stigma, just use a super poly.
The laser should...
These creatures can fuse together, but it's okay, the laser makes quick work of it. Now with Stigma destroyed, we can hopefully now rest easy. Except, it's only chapter 2, so it's still really just the beginning. Russo is still acting sus, by the way, attempting to gather and release the evidence of Stigma to the public himself as his own discovery. Can this guy get any smellier? With Wilkins wanting all of the research destroyed, by the way, the doctors theorize and, well, they discuss the one thing we're all thinking. Are guilt and Stigma connected? A few days pass and nothing exciting happens as they wait for the professor to recover. You not think we should go check on him?
Speak of the devil. He's paging us. I wonder what he wants.
He didn't mention anything to me. Is that the fire alarm?
Something must have happened. We better go check on the professor. Oh no!
Ah! Help! That man's on fire! We have to help him!
Be careful, Marcus!
Drop to the floor! Hurry! Valerie, isn't there a fire extinguisher around?
Doctor!
Quick thinking, Elena.
Someone. Professor Wilkins and Stigma.
Russo, is that you?
And then
Well, well, well. Dr. Smelly got too cocky, and now he looks like Anakin Skywalker.
This operation is really cool actually. We have to use part of his skin as a graft in order to fix the skin on the other side of his body. It's a tight mission with not a lot of room for error. You've got to manage draining blood, placing skin grafts on fast enough so the bleeding doesn't make them fall off, and then that happens, you have to do it all again. It's pretty intense, and all in all, a good operation. 10 out of 10, would skin graft again. Now, as to where that fire came from? It was from Professor Wilkins' laboratory. It's been torched, and all of the evidence is gone. And worst of all, the professor is missing. Someone is behind this and knows of Stigma. But with the professor gone, the director of Caduceus uses this moment in time to recruit us to Caduceus. Finally, the plot is kicking off. The mystery of Stigma, the suspicious areas surrounding the kidnapping of Professor Wilkins. I can't wait to uncover it all. On to the next chapter.
Dr. Vaughn, Dr. Blaylock, by the authority of the federal government, I hereby order your immediate transfer to Caduceus.
The authority of the federal government?
The decision was made based on the research we believe Professor Wilkins was performing. As skilled doctors and colleagues of the professor, we require your expertise in the U.S. branch of Caduceus. We'll do our best to accommodate any staff member requests you may have.
I can't believe it. We're going to Caduceus.
Well, here we are. Caduceus. Caduceus is a bit different than a standard hospital, but it's more of a focus on new emerging diseases and upcoming issues within the medical field. It's here where the story will kick off, and our squad is assigned to the Special Disease Counteraction Team, the SDCT. Our doctor here is Mr. Everett, a man who has been working hard and avoiding surgery that has impacted him for 3 years. We gotta give this man some well-deserved rest by completing the operation. And this operation is very cool. You have to juggle draining blood as usual, but you also have to slowly cut layers off the gallbladder until it's fully removed. I really appreciate it when Trauma Center has that perfect level of manageable chaos, so when you overcome it by the skin of your teeth, it feels like such a huge victory. That was just a taste though. Now it's time to turn back to Stigma. What's interesting about this disease though is that it's still very underground, which I suppose the reason is that it doesn't spread as well as other diseases, despite having a couple of singulated cases around the world. I guess they've learned from guilt and know how to keep more things under wraps so the public doesn't panic about a brand new infectious, potentially medical terrorist disease. We continue on with more standard operations and meet some more key characters. The head of research, Dr. Cromwell, who loves gassing us up. He also reveals some issues that the general public has with Caduceus, mainly due to the huge budget they receive from the government. We also meet Mrs. Vasquez, a representative of the Humani Corporation. I probably butchered that name, I'm so sorry. There's also another researcher from Humani, Miss Cynthia, who is actually an old friend of Blaylock. Me when the friends, have a trauma center together. For this next operation, we'll be testing a new synthetic material that helps organs function better. I really do like the side of Caduceus, using these smaller operations in between the bigger events of the story to showcase potential medical advancements, and we might be able to use these later down the line, or maybe even in future games. Very cool. Speaking of the next big operation, by the way, it's time for us to battle a new type of Stigma from good old Texas. This is a pretty straightforward Stigma. Just drain it and laser anything that pops out of the body itself. It splits at certain points and you just gotta repeat the process until, well, it's completely gone. We do get a bit more information on Stigma. Well, honestly, it's not really much. After all the research, Stigma is composed of organic material that isn't known to the current world. There's also a bonus that Stigma definitely doesn't multiply or grow, meaning it doesn't really infect people. You know, now that I think about it, how did you get infected with Stigma, Frank?
Your mother.
Moving on to chapter 4, which starts with a poor father begging for his child to be operated on. Caduceus do take them in, but unfortunately, the family does not have the money, 10 grand to pay for the operation. But by a stroke of luck, a little spoilt brat is having the exact same operation done, and he wants it to be more expensive than one of his friends. So Dr. Blaylock does a cheeky move, asking the snot-nosed brat for a donation so that his operation is more expensive. Kind of, epic. Now, this is kinda silly, but back in the day, I actually had this exact same operation. That's right, your boy Guaca is appendixless. And holy moly, I'm so glad I didn't have these doctors do it. They got a huge hole in this dude's chest! It's kinda cool to see, well, some kind of version of this operation. Man, my doctor must have the healing touch IRL to get through this. Thanks, bro. I can picture him right now doing the star sign. The other kid, though, he isn't so lucky. His appendix actually burst, meaning his intestines are all messed up. It's a slightly more advanced version of the other operation. Nothing us doctors can't handle, though. The next part of the chapter showcases a pretty unique premise to a game show, though. Wish come true, miracle surgery. A TV show where contestants who need money for an operation get their operation performed free of charge, live to an audience. This is definitely some dystopian TikTok thing that will be happening in the next few years. Now, there's a host, Leo. He gets to go on a big tirade about the annual budget of Caduceus and how much they get funded and how stupid it is. This riles up the crowd and he just continues going on and on complaining about nothing. So basically, our goal now is to go on this TV show and show the public why Caduceus exists. Yep, we are going on a medical operation game show. Here is the Atlus I know and love, thank you. Going on to the show, we are immediately painted as the villains, but we can prove them wrong with the operation. The operation is fine, except for the annoying reaction commentary going on. Just, bro, please let me operate. This guy is so annoying.
Bleeding won't stop until we take care of all these tumors.
Oh, we've lost the tumor shell.
I'm not finished.
You must be kidding.
Is it broken? Hurry and get a replacement. We'll manage for the time being.
Oh, no. An equipment malfunction? Together, Caduceus.
Oh my god, can you let me do what I need to do?
When we complete the operation flawlessly, by the way, Bro comes out here saying, I can complete it faster. Be quiet, nerd. So now we have to come back the next day and attempt to beat him during an operation, and if we win, we get to shut down the TV show. This operation is pretty easy, working to beat the aneurysms as fast as we can before they burst. This was the first operation where I actually had to use my healing touch, which is still as janky as ever, and I'm kinda sad they didn't give you a tutorial like they did in the first game. The key though, is to do as big of a star as possible, being roughly accurate. As long as you do that, you'll create the star, and make sure you go pretty fast too. I really wish they just made the healing touch the touch of a button. But it wasn't enough even using the healing touch. You wanna know why?
That you were able to complete the operation. But you had me worried there for a while, since it was taking so long.
Dr. Bello, you're all...
That can't be. We completed our operation so fast.
Let's take a moment to review some highlights from Dr. Bellow's operation.
Yep, the host has the healing touch and acts all high and mighty. Might I point out, he had literally 5 things to do and our operation was way more complex. I'm calling bullshit. With our tail between our legs, we return to Caduceus and find out something suspicious.
I called you here for another reason. Take a look at this.
A letter?
How old-fashioned. Dear Caduceus staff, congratulations on your recent appearance on Miracle Surgery. Seeing you perform that operation on national television really inspired me. That's why I believe it's now my turn to make an appearance. Is this guy a doctor trying to promote himself? Or is this another challenge?
Keep reading. I'm afraid it's more serious than that.
What you encountered at Concordia was care, the hand. And in Maryland you received soma, the body. But now I shall reveal ops, the eye, for the entire country to witness. I assure you it will be something to behold. The miracle of modern times, Stigma. He knows about Stigma?
It appears so. That's why I couldn't just ignore this.
Oh, shiver me timbers, man. Whoever is behind Stigma is going to reveal it to the world. Where are they going to reveal it? On the stupid TV show, of course. Now we have to go back. But at the same time, this is the perfect chance to redeem ourselves. Let's go! This Stigma is named Ops, the eye. We have to laser the big eye while draining and lasering the little pathogens that pop out. But man, this dude still won't shut up! But aside from that, this is the easiest operation yet. But because we beat the stupid TV show host, we now get to shut the TV show down. This was a very goofy chapter, but pretty great overall. The vindication was insane. Time for chapter 5. I haven't mentioned it by the way, but man, the New Blood soundtrack is so banging. Sorry, getting back on track. This chapter starts off with meeting Mr. Nelson, the president of Humani, who is here to celebrate our victory on that awful TV show. We get to go see hockey. Oh boy, I hope we get to enjoy the show. And someone hurt themselves. This is a weird operation. He's got a hockey stick trapped inside his leg, so we gotta pull it out between convulsions. Another pretty cool, unique operation. Next up is more info on Stigma. Apparently the—
hell no. Let's skip all this medical mumbo jumbo.
Frank, this is important to the plot and your life, okay? There is a certain type of metal associated with the Stigma, ceruleum, that needs to grow the Stigma. They kind of work together. What's very worrying though is that ceruleum is used a lot in the medical industry, which means that potentially all these new medical breakthroughs that have been using this new metal as part of its synthetic material could potentially end up housing, transferring, or even just straight up carrying Stigma. We have to leave the conference though, because we got to do an operation on Dr. Suji's cousin or something, which is another doctor that's part of Caduceus. Honestly, these filler operations are getting a little bit frustrating, and I wish we just had more focuses on the visual novel aspects, like they did in Second Opinion. You know, quality over quantity and all that. We're out of the boring part of the game. We're out of the mundane operations. Let's just get to the nitty gritty. Even though they do make the extra operations fun though, I just personally prefer more story. Anyway, we do the same operation again, and then we save her cousin successfully. Hooray! And in honor of saving her family member, she's got to take us out to dinner. All we gotta do is get there.
The 7th, so yeah, this is right.
You have all the coronary arteries memorized, but you can't remember simple directions. It's nice of Kanai to treat us to dinner, but I wonder if we'll make it in time.
Well, I doubt we'll get another offer like this from her again. Dr. Vaughn, it seems kind of dark this way.
Yeah, I'll turn right at— that should take us—
You three, don't make a sound. If you want to live, then do as I say. Now, get inside that car.
We'll give you all our money if—
Sorry. Now hurry up and get in.
No!
Elena! Didn't I tell you to be quiet?
What did you just do?
These days, anesthesia can be administered via pen injectors. Pretty handy, wouldn't you say?
What do you want from us?
Let's save that for later, shall we?
Dr. Vaughn! Marcus!
Awakening in a candlelit surgical room, the gang are now greeted with their new home, now being forced by someone called Kidman to work on Stigma. Either they do that, or well, they die. May as well learn something new about Stigma, I guess? Now, the next operation is kind of worrying though. A surprise operation in fact, because somehow this patient was infected by Stigma from another patient. This is seriously worrying as it could mean the disease is evolving and mutating. Speaking of mutating, this new strain of Stigma is very cheeky. This guy hides around inside the body and you have to use an ultrasound to spot him, cut him out, and then inject him with Vita gummies in order to destroy him. At a certain point he mutates, spreading this nasty web across the organ, and we have to find it a couple of times and inject it. Funny though, because it's kind of easy to find because you don't have to use the ultrasound, but because there's a lot of dots it becomes very stressful if you don't immediately spot it. But we got through it easy peasy. Now that all of our patients have been saved, Kidman offers us an ultimatum. Operate on human subjects that are being tested with Stigma, or face the consequences. And well, because everyone here's good people, they never agree to that. Now, the night before we are taken to our new cell, Dr. Vaughn wants to get something off his chest.
Val, Elaine.
Yes?
There's something I need to tell you.
Okay.
Is it about the choice they gave us?
No, it has nothing to do with that. It's more of a confession. Back when I was helping the professor with his research, I made a number of genetically engineered mice for use in experiments. There was something different about one of them. It looked just like the others, but it held a terrible secret inside.
You don't mean...
It happened while I was operating on the subject's kidney. I was excising a tumor. That's when it came into contact with artificial blood and started growing at a frightening pace. That was the birth of Stigma.
Marcus, I can't believe this.
I disposed of the subject and proposed that we put a halt to the research. Unleashing a new pathogen into the world in order to study its treatment. I argued that that was the wrong way to perform research, but the professor wouldn't listen. That's why I volunteered to go to Alaska, when I should have just quit. I had no idea you'd follow me there and get dragged into this mess.
I was desperate to study your techniques, but I never imagined that that's why you were there.
You realize that I may personally be responsible for the advent of Stigma? If it wasn't for me, none of this would have happened, and you two wouldn't be in this position. But I want you to know, as a doctor, I've always held the highest regard for human life.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Marcus. There are still many things we don't know about Stigma. We need your help to unlock those secrets.
Just so you know, Dr. Vaughn, I'll always be there to assist you no matter what.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, come morning, and our new cell is, well, a hole with water filling it up. Our only way out is through a toy lot. Honestly, if this thing was from a toy store, I have no idea why they wouldn't just rip it to pieces and bang it on the iron bars. But anyway, it's a pretty simple puzzle. You have to use your forceps to rotate the pipes so that each color lines up with the corresponding entrance. Now, it's kind of weird because I connected them all, but I guess I did it in the way the game didn't want me to do it, which is kind of funny. I guess I needed all the colors lined up, like every single panel, but whatever. I did it the second time, and we escaped this huge facility somehow on foot, kind of based. We literally run all the way back to Caduceus, who just says, "Oh boy, I hope you're okay. We need to get a bit better at security." My brother in Greek mythology. Why didn't you send a search party or something? Anyway, we're back now, and we don't have time to rest, because they immediately put us into a new strain of Stigma. I swear at this point I feel like Blaylock and Vaughn are doing all of the work. This new strain of Stigma is pretty easy though, to be honest. You just use the forceps to squeeze little lights to slow them down, and inject other things and cut down the heads. You do it a few times, bada bing bada boom, it's dead. I gotta say, Stigma is way easier compared to Guilt, especially due to the lack of spreading to the general public, and also that the operations are, well, pretty easy. With that done, it's time to head to Kularuma to check the Carulean mine, because, well, it makes sense that smelly Stigma's gonna be there. This part mirrors where we head out internationally in Second Opinion, and it comes with all the same troubles, like this nurse who was supposed to help us forgetting to take her vaccines, so now she's sick with a bad fever. It's just a slightly more complicated tumor extraction. But now she's all better, we head to the village just outside the mines where multiple workers of the mine have been infected with Stigma. You know what that means? Multiple operations back to back. I've been waiting for this. A real jump in difficulty. Watch this, Frank.
This'll be a race against time, so let's get...
operations today.
Don't worry, I'm sure.
No freaking way!
Thank you, thank you. Now that everyone is all good, we can head into the mine and find some more info. The doctors theorize that this mine is a testing ground for Stigma, with Kidman at the core of it all, and that would make sense as...
Pepita?
We're under attack! I don't see them anywhere!
Pepita tried to protect us and...
No, not Pepita, she tried to save us. We need to operate on this doggy now.
No, my little Pepita. Guaca, if you do not save her, I am revoking your medical license.
No! She...
Get out the defibrillator.
But it's designed...
We've got no choice.
Here you go. You know what to do.
I've lowered the voltage. Keep it.
No pulse yet, but your timing... Yes! We have a pulse.
But there's hemorrhaging. We need...
Right, or she'll bleed to death.
Keep an eye on the electrocardiogram too. She may go into cardiac arrest again. Let's get her back to camp.
She's going into cardiac. We can't let her die now.
We have a pulse.
Let's get back to camp and...
Good job. You're gonna be all right, Pepita.
I wonder if she has any idea at all what we're saying.
I'm sure she knows we mean well.
Yeah, maybe...
Thank goodness. But, you know, we're not out of the woods yet. The guerrillas attacked us and have taken over a military base. There's a whole military guerrilla government overthrow thing going on while this is all happening, by the way. And now us have to go in and act as combat medics. This is really, really cool. It's another multi-operation treating 3 patients. One with burn wounds, one with bullet wounds, and another with glass inside him. They're all pretty easy, but the added pressure of these multi-operations is really where Trauma Center shines, like I said before, and I love them. Luckily, none of them had Stigma. Patch everyone up, recapture the base, no problem. There's still some patients being transferred from the rebel base though. Wait! It's you! It's Kidman! With Kidman dead now, it's time to save 2 lives, by using half of Kidman's liver for each of the 2 remaining survivors. I would be sad, but this dude did lock me up, so I don't really care, just use his freaking liver. Not only are these both complex operations, by the way, with multiple injections and steps, we have to do it in a specific order, and each of them have Stigma, so we gotta do all of that at the same time. This is definitely one of the toughest, if not the toughest mission in the game, with it needing a few retries, definitely. The key is to just focus on either the transportation or the killing of Stigma, one or the other. I prefer finding Stigma first, then you can focus on the transplant, but on the other hand, doing part of the transplant gives you a slightly bigger health bar, so you could do half and half. Whatever you want to do, you're the freaking doctor. At least with the operations complete, Kidman has now been finished, but the problem is, well, where's Professor Wilkins? If he was also kidnapped, wouldn't that mean he's also out there still? Somewhere? Well, with one final chapter to go, it won't be long. So let's get it.
It's not the president who will shape this country's future. It's people like you. You're the ones who will build a better future.
We have to get going. But just know that we'll be rooting for you.
Thank you. I'll do my best to make you proud.
Arriving back at Caduceus, we have found a potential informant that has links to Kidman. The catch? We need to perform an operation on this informant in exchange for information. The informant in question is Kidman's mother, who explained that after the war, he wanted to create biological warfare as a means of making money. Now, this is yet another tumor mission. I've had training with these types before, so Super easy. The lights do go out halfway through though, and you have to manually move a torch to complete parts of it, which is very cool, and a callback to a previous operation, the Second Opinion. In exchange for completing this operation, she doxes her own son. Thanks, ma'am. Now it's back to organize a meeting to take down the Syndicate of Kidman, which is now in full-blown operation, with them making moves all over the world. The potential for a second medical terrorist attack similar to Guilt is rising. And to make matters worse, Cynthia, one of the head researchers for our side, is now missing as well. Hopefully we'll find her soon, but first, we have to head to this huge mafia hideout. And of course, this freaking guy is reporting everything. Now luckily he isn't bothering us too much because we need concentrations for our next operations. Multiple patients with multiple strains of Stigma. Let's go!
Soma has been incinerated. The pair has been incinerated. Let's treat the remaining wounds and wrap this up. The onyx is gone. The Soma is still present. The Soma has been incinerated. Treat the remaining wounds and we'll be done here. It looks like they've successfully gained control of the hideout. Let's finish this operation too. Amazing! Those were incredible operations.
After the smoke clears, guess who we find in the hideout? None other than Professor Wilkins. Now before you go jump to conclusions and said he was the one behind it all, it seems he's actually been brainwashed. With an electrical device implanted into his head, he was hypnotized to continue to work on Stigma. It's up to us to operate on him, and before the operation, Dr. Vaughn has a moment with Wilkins, apologizing for the release of Stigma. He rants on about the necessity of Stigma, obviously still under the influence of the device. Now, this operation is probably the easiest of the entire game. All we need to do is take out some chips and pull some rods when there's no lights on them. Honestly, it's nice to have a low stakes mission between all these intense ones. And with the operation successful, Wilkins returns back to his original form, his memory intact until just before the kidnapping. There's not much point in telling Wilkins the truth until everything is over, because, well, we've got an important meeting tomorrow with other groups of Caduceus and we gotta be ready. Okay, here is the freaking lore dump. Parnassus is a group controlling the Kidman Syndicate who was researching Stigma for them. They were led by a man named Master Vakushti, also known as Ray Karinsky, aka Cynthia's ex. No freaking way. This guy also created Columbia and Cornix, which is a subsidiary of none other than the Humani Corporation. They were researching Stigma and then planned to spread it through the company that was connected to the Humani Corporation, which in turn would make Stigma reach all new locations around the entire world, and the medical advancements would actually push back society as a whole. Smart bastards! Cynthia also turned out to be a double agent this entire time, sending over all our data to Parnassus, so they're one step ahead of us. We do get some more extra information though, delivered to us by none other than the GOAT himself from Trauma Center Second Opinion, Derek. Take it away, bro.
Dr. Stiles of Caduceus, Japan, who was dispatched to Caucasus, will now give us the details. I'm sure you all know, but he's the doctor responsible for saving the world from guilt.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to update you on the current status of Caucasus.
There he is.
While I was there, I treated a number of patients who'd been infected with Stigma. Similarly, the US branch has dealt with a variety of cases as indicated in their report. But the true problem is this organization called Parnassus, mentioned earlier. The local police are investigating the matter, with the assistance of the Russian army.
The United States will be providing support as well in order to crush Parnassus. We will be supplying both instruments and medicine, in addition to dispatching doctors from Caduceus.
I believe that's a very wise decision.
I've already volunteered you two. I hope you have no objections.
I'll go and put an end to this.
I'd like to know the truth. I was friends with Cynthia after all.
This is Angie Thompson, She assists me with my operations. She accompanied me to Caucasus and helped to analyze Stigma at the scene.
The research data provided by everyone was quite useful, but the Stigma are showing signs of change. Unfortunately, they're not evolving to our advantage.
Angie's here as well! Dude, it is so cool to see her and Derek still fighting for Caduceus. She brings us some dire news though. The place where Parnassus is based, the Stigma there is growing rapidly without ceruleum. So we gotta head there right now, arrest everyone, and stop the research of Stigma before it spreads too far. The final showdown of the entire game happens at a grand old castle, with the officers fighting hard. We gotta patch up a few with some funky tumors, but it's nothing. What's more important is the location of Cynthia. We find her, and she immediately spills the beans, revealing that while she was a double agent, she actually had no choice. She goes on to tell the story of Ray, how he was an accomplished doctor trying to change things in his own country, to which he was met with gunfire and betrayal. His thoughts became more and more radical, to the point where he just wants to wipe out his enemies and anyone who stood in his way. This is apparently because he is descended from Noah's Ark? It's starting to get slightly ridiculous, but he believes that being on this ark in the past means he can do whatever he wants. The logic is crazy, especially because I think, wouldn't everyone come from Noah's Ark? I don't know. I don't know how this works. We have a very pressing issue to take care of though. Cynthia has a shackle on her heart, a remote bomb that can be detonated with the push of a button, and which is why she was complying with Ray's requests. Well, you know what we're about to do, right? Yep, let's freaking save Cynthia.
Well, we'll be operating on her heart, so please be very careful while performing this procedure.
Where is the pump unit located?
It's in the atrium. Let's take a look inside.
Is this the same kind of implant I have? If that's true, then we can remove all the control chips to completely shut it off. The chip has been cut off. That's the first one. An irregularity on the EKG. Doctor, please be... Thankfully, her heart didn't... That's the second one. The implant has been separated. This is the chip that's keeping her here. The chip is implanted directly into the heart. We should carefully peel this off little by little. First, we need to disable the chip. What? This can't be. The chip rebooted itself. Disable it again. Fibrillation has occurred. Please suspend the treatment. She's undergoing cardiac arrest. Massage the heart, quickly. We have a pulse. We can't relax until it's all over.
Not yet.
Let's detach it with the scalpel before...
We can almost detach it. Doctor, another irregularity on the EKG.
The extraction has been completed.
Don't start celebrating yet. We're only halfway done.
We need to replace control chip. The first control... Another irregularity. Doctor, please be more careful. There are still wounds left. Let's treat all of them. The pump has begun functioning.
All right, let's close the atrium.
Vitals are stable.
It seems like she'll be all right. Well then, let's start.
Please close her up. The same tools. It can be used for both good and evil. Great work, Doctor.
With Cynthia saved, it's time to confront Master Vakushti. Let's see what he has to say for himself.
So, you're Dr. Vaughn. Welcome, Father of Stigma. It's an honor to meet you. Even if it was by mere chance, your discovery is of great significance.
You've got it all wrong. I'm not its father. I came here to eradicate it.
What an ignorant decision. Your sense of duty as a doctor has blinded you to the possibility of life. What is needed in this world, which long ago reached maturity and began to rot away, is stigma. The power to create new life. Rejoice that you are chosen to take part in this momentous occasion.
Yep, as you guessed, he's kind of insane. And even worse, he houses the final form of stigma, cardia. It's all down to this, the final stigma. Everything we've learned from fighting guilt and stigma combined. The fate of the world. The fate of Dr. Frank George from Fiverr.com. Here we go.
Anesthetic.
Yes, Doctor.
Marcus, don't tell me you plan to operate on him.
I see edema on his body. The infection must be in the advanced stages. We can't allow this strain of stigma to leave here. We must confront it to learn the truth.
different than before.
Stigma is an antagonist for malignant diencephalic sclerosis. It has protected my brain until now. Without it, I won't survive for long.
You use stigma to treat a diencephalic disorder?
Wait, but then the change in his behavior, could it have been induced? Could he be suffering from delirium as a side effect?
It's getting hard to breathe. I let my anger take control of me. I was weak, and I lost myself. My regret is too much to bear.
I'm sure you saved countless lives over the years. But that doesn't give you the right to take away even a single life.
Dr. Vaughn, Dr. Blaylock, thank you. You saved me. I was able to repent before my death.
He's gone.
Doctor.
It's finally over.
Wow. Just wow. Okay, Trauma Center New Blood really kicked it off at the end. The ridiculous over-the-top reason for fighting, the frantic twists and turns and reveals really helped build the tension and climax of the entire game. Vaughn at the end had learned to accept his mistakes and move past them, and Blaylock kept believing in humanity and most importantly herself in order to save the world from Stigma. And with it now defeated, it seems everyone is going to go back to some standard work for now, and while still busy, at least everyone can breathe a bit easier. Man, reflecting on New Blood now, it was a pretty good game. Even though it wasn't as impactful as Second Opinion, especially in regards to character growth, it was still a really fun experience overall. I definitely felt like the characters needed some more dynamics and a bit more progression, with Vaughn definitely being the one with the most growth compared to the three main characters, and I know I didn't talk about them much, but you know what? It was still a good game, even if there wasn't much actual story development to talk about. We got to do a hospital game show, we escaped drowning in the sewers by unlocking a puzzle, we disarmed a bomb from inside a heart. There's a lot of great key moments that stand out to me in New Blood, and it's still worth playing definitely. I bet it's even better co-op. Being able to solve a medical terrorist crisis with a friend would be unforgettable. But hey, we're forgetting the whole point of this freaking playthrough. Now that we've finished New Blood, I can say Frank. Frank, please tell me, what strain of Stigma do you have? It's not Cardia, is it? Or the eye? Please. We need to get to the operating room right away. Oh, I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, I got Stigma all right. Stigma nuts in your mouth. Ha! Got 'em.
Well, remember to keep shredding, guys. See ya!
No way.